Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh my goodness. Good morning. How many of you back in the day used to wake up like this from a hangover? Yeah, now. How many of you still wake up like this early in the morning from a hangover, right? you went to bed, probably like this, right? And then when you realize that you didn't have your mask on, you did something like this. Oh, good morning. Oh, good morning. All right. So 34 years ago, I probably no, I know I did stuff like this. I really wasn't into the wigs, but you know, I didn't want to wake up. I wished I had died while I was asleep. I didn't want to hear no birds chirping or none of that, right? Cause I was like done. Probably just got raped. Probably just got beat up. Probably just jumped out of a car. And I recognized that I had to wake up this morning. That morning. Oh Lord, what a life I used to live. But not no more. On February 22nd of 1990, underneath that parked car, getting high and doing all kind of crazy sexual things from my own stepson, I hollered out to this guy that I didn't know, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now, show me a better way. Honey, listen, next thing I knew, I was put on a pathway to spiritual recovery. No mask, right? Comb my little hair. Yes, 34 years ago, I said, no more, no more, no more. And now I wake up, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory. Soldiers of the Lord. So you see what spiritual principles and spiritual tools and resources can do. It can change your whole life around, just like it did mine. And listen, I'm letting y'all know my God saved me for this very, very reason, to demonstrate to you what he can do when you have your one and only knee bowing experience. I tell you, I got to push these dentures up because Emma is going to be upset if I take them out. Wait, I'm going to push them up. Mm, mm. And so now that I wake up and realize that my creator said rise, oh, I am so happy to be given one more day to be of service to him so that I can be of service to you. For that, I want to give him the honor, the praise, the glory, the hallelujah, the worship, and most importantly, the acknowledgement. Let's take a toast or a drink to that. I'm drinking coffee. No more liquor. No more crack. No more marijuana. No more pills. Just high off of life. Let's take that drink. All righty then. Let's start off by saying happy belated Mother's Day. Yes, happy belated Mother's Day. Wait a minute. My coffee don't taste too good. So I'm going to hit that pause button. But happy Mother's Day to you all. Did y'all have a good Mother's Day? Did you know that every day is Mother's Day? Every day is a birthday. Every day is a holiday for each and every one of us. I'm pouring some. Listen, I told you I am transparent. I am authentic. And so my coffee didn't taste right. And I'm going to pause and fix it. But again, how was your Mother's Day, huh? Listen, this is going to be an informal conversation this morning with Edwina B, right? So let's see how the coffee tastes now. Let's see. Much better. When I had COVID, Couldn't taste nothing, couldn't smell nothing. But by the grace of God, I have all my taste buds, my hearing buds. Now, there's one thing that has lingered, and I get a cough every so often. But other than that, I'm great. So, did you answer the question? How was your Mother's Day? It was good? All right, so welcome to the Free to Hope, right? Free to Hope. From recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. Many of you know what my saying is, right? And the reason why I say free to hope is because I have been set free, and my obligation, my honor is to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. I want to continue to give hope, right, to those individuals who knew about my free event on April the 27th, who could not show up. But for those who did show up, they got a preview of my presentation, my conversation, right? My seminar, right? And really, it really is just a let's get down and get dirty type of conversation, right? And it planted the seed for this upcoming event, my master's class, which will be held on Thursday, May the 30th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m., and or June the 1st, Saturday, from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And when I say the topic is so tired of being broken and broke, I have and will continue to share my journey of discovering where, how, when, and what caused or contributed to my being broken and broke. And so please register because it's going to be in person and virtual. All right. So I'm going to have that information for you to sign up. It is a registration fee. So don't get all bent out of shape. I spent thousands and thousands and thousands on drugs. I spent thousands and thousands and thousands on jewelry, shoes, clothes, all that stuff that I didn't need. But when it comes to spiritual tools and resources, there's no cost that will compare to what I will receive spiritually. Okay. Now, I need another drink because I am coming down from a spiritual high, right? This past weekend and this past week, really, my granddaughters, Shyla, Nene, and Mukmuk, right? We all went to the cheerleading competition summit. And my granddaughter, who is 17, out of 40 participants, her team came in 14, which is great. And my Nene, which is 6, her team came in first place, and she brought home the ring. Yes, yes, yes. And so I just thank God for my Mother's Day present that I was with my child, soon to be Dr. Kenesha, Treasure Edwina Dockery, and my 3 granddaughters. There was a time I was not available for my children. Dr. Dwight Kenneth Dockery II, and my daughter, soon to be Dr. Kenesha, Treasure Edwina Dockery. And guess what? Soon to be Dr. Edwina Bell Mitchell. Yes, I am applying. No, I am finishing up. No, I am obtaining my doctorate degree in biblical studies. I've done all my courses, I've done all my assignments. And guess what? It's been 7 years and I haven't written my dissertation yet. But that's going to change because over the week, I learned how I can begin to organize what I need in a time management calendar. And so, if it's God's grace and His mercy and His will, and my participation and doing the footwork, I will begin that process, which is already written in my heart and in my mind. I just got to put pencil to paper. All right. And so, having spent this time with my grandchildren and my daughter, I am on a natural high. I'm on a natural high. So, let's get down to our conversation this morning, okay? So, I want to share with you the reading for today. So let's go here. And then I'll go back to what these pictures mean, okay? So the first thing I want to do is, you know how I've been talking about the hold on 1 second, y'all. Something's not right. All right, where are you? Okay. Ooh, ooh, ooh. See what happens when you start messing with stuff? It's okay. You just take the time and you have the patience and you figure it out, right? I saw something that I didn't like and I needed to fix it, and voila. Okay. So that's what recovery and applying these spiritual principles have done for me, giving me the opportunity to practice patience and tolerance. Okay. All right. So now the reading for May the 13th from the AA Daily Reflection says, the easier, softer way. Now, from our co-founders, he takes a quote from the Big Book, page 72. Not Big Boo, but Big Book, page 72. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Now, the person in recovery shares his experience and says, I certainly didn't leap at the opportunity to face who I was, especially when the pains of my drinking days hung over me like a dark cloud. But I soon heard at the meetings about the fellow members who just didn't want to take step 5 and kept going back to meetings, trembling from the horrors of reliving his past. The easiest, softer way is to take these steps to freedom from our fatal disease and to put our faith in the fellowship and our higher power. Okay, now, whew, all right, listen, y'all. I'm going to share on this real briefly, right? And then I'm going back to the breakdown of the two most important women in my life, my mother and my aunt, as I give them homage to Mother's Day, all right? But this step, the 5th step, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, helped me to go back into my life and take a fearless and searching more inventory of where my attitudes, ideas, and behaviors began, right? And so you also have been learning that this step right here is when we disclose any and all secrets, disclose things that we have kept concealed that needed to be revealed in order for us to heal. And so it says right off the back, right? If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Now, let me tell you about me. I've learned from underneath that parked car, I'm not giving anything or anybody that much power ever again to go back to drinking, smoking crack, prostituting, and being placed underneath that parked car. Oh, hell to the no. Hell to the no. And so by applying, right, these steps in my life, particularly this 5th step, I was able to free myself from all the issues that I said I was going to take to my grave because I felt so guilty about a lot of things that I did, particularly as a prostitute when I had an abortion, because I didn't want to acknowledge who the father was. And for 10 years, I could not forgive myself, right? And so when I was able to surrender that one time with that knee-bound experience underneath that parked car, 10 years that I had suffered from not just that secret, but that was the most devastating, right? And I had shared with you some of the other things that I did, but I set myself free, right? That I wasn't going to give anything or anybody that much power to remove me where God has placed me or where God has delivered me from. Okay, so let's see. He says, I certainly didn't leap at the opportunity to face who I was, right? And so what I'm talking about, right, is at one point in time, we have to, hold on 1 second, you. We have to be true to ourselves. We have to not give anything or anybody that much power ever again. So therefore, I must be willing to open my book and read the beginning chapters of my life. Yes, 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 yes. And so when I was able to do my fourth step, I found out some things, right? And it says I certainly didn't leap at the opportunity to face who I was, especially when the pains of my drinking days hung over me like a dark cloud. Now, if you are like me and you were in your addiction, suffering from mental illness, as well as substance abuse, then you know that we had a lot of issues. But I found out through doing my fourth step that there was nothing wrong with me, but that there was plenty that happened to me, and I needed to find out what it was. So I was willing to face who I was, right? And so this gentleman continues to say, right? But I soon heard at the meetings about the fellow members who just didn't want to take the fifth step and kept coming back to meetings, trembling from the horrors of reliving his past. Now I know of a guy by the name of Joe Carr, and he kept the secret for 25 years while still in recovery, going to meetings, getting involved in everything. But he kept the secret. So for me, I listened because that's not being free to me. All right. And so by going to meetings, I hear other people's experience, strength, and hope, and how they face or don't face the spiritual tools and resources that are available to give them an unlimited amount of spiritual breakthroughs, right? So I learn from them. And then he goes on to say, right, the easier, softer way is to take these steps to freedom from our fatal disease, huh? The easier, softer way is to take these steps to freedom. I wanted to be set free from recovery. I have emerged empowered only to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. And so, what he also says is that, right, and right, steps to freedom from our fatal disease. A lot of people don't think alcoholism is a disease. Well, guess what? Do your research. Do your research. Alcoholism is an incurable disease. Yes, it is. Right? And we only have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. That's why applying spiritual tools and resources and principles to all earthly matters will help us to be set free and not to go back to drinking and to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. And what we've learned to do is to put our faith in the fellowship and in our higher power. Now, many of you know that when I was underneath that parked car and hollered out to that God that I didn't know, but whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way. And so I wanted this God, who I didn't know, to make the decision. Because every time I tried to stop, I started. Every time I tried to stop, I started. I could never stay stopped. The rapes, the beat ups, the suicide attempts, right? Over and over again. My family don't understand me. My children disowning me. The embarrassment, the self loathing, the hatred, the helplessness, the hopelessness I had. Take me out or show me a better way. And so my God, that I now know and have a personal relationship with, sent me to the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I haven't left, don't plan to leave, right? I haven't left and do not plan to leave. As a matter of fact, I may have to walk to the meeting this morning because I don't have a car right now, but that's okay. I got 2 feet. I walked to the drug dealers. I walked to the bar. I walked out there tricking. I can walk to my meeting. Yes, yes, yes. There's no excuse. No excuse. And I know the easier, softer way, and it's just to do it, okay? And so having faith in the fellowship and my higher power, I have been set free. Okay, so let's go back to what I want to share that I started to share the other day, right? And that was the homage I wanted to give to the women in my life. So first of all, here are my parents and my auntie Margaret, right? And so in tribute to Mother's Day, I shared the other day the importance information that I learned and how their relationship with me molded and shaped me in many and different ways. And so I also shared with you that for me, I was closer to my Aunt Margaret than I was to my own mother. Yes, I loved my mother, but I didn't like my mother. I loved my Aunt Margaret, but didn't like her. Isn't that something? I liked my mother, but didn't love her that way. And no, I loved my mother, but didn't like her. I liked my auntie, but found out I did love her, but in a different way. And so for many years, I felt guilty about that relationship of not liking my mother. Why? Because of the issues that I was able to identify in my childhood. I was jealous of my mother, right? Because she got my dad's attention too much. I didn't like my mother because she allowed my dad to treat her any old kind of way. I didn't understand my mother because she stayed when my father kept abusing her. And so I didn't want to be anything like my mother. She was passive and she was weak from my perspective then, right? On the other hand, my auntie Margaret, was childless, right? And she gave me all her attention. I didn't have to share with anybody else. But what I do remember with my Auntie Margaret, is that she had so many men in her life. She had a man for this, she had a man for that, she had a man for this, she had a man for that. And she would always wear these different wigs when she would see these different men. And so as a child, I began to see what it means to put on the mask. Where my mother didn't wear any makeup, she didn't wear any wigs, and she was just her natural self. But for me, that didn't look attractive. Well, it didn't. Okay. But with my aunt being a barmaid and the glamour and the seductive blouses she used to wear and the makeup and the push-ups and all that kind of stuff, that was attractive to me as a child. Okay. So when I compared my mother with my aunt, I wonder what characteristics I grew up and became, right? I used and became, right? And so I didn't want to be anything like my mother, so I wasn't weak and I wasn't passive. If anything, I wanted to be this, and that because my aunt was this, and that. And she taught me when to be a lady and when to be a woman and when to be a bitch. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. She had all these different masks for different situations, different circumstances, and different atmospheres. And so I wonder why I grew up believing, one, that I needed a man for this, a man for that, and then a man for this, a man for that. And I also believed that I needed to put on all these different masks for all these different situations and circumstances, right? And that I had to buff up, I had to clean up, I had to appear to be something I wasn't. Well, when I went back home to my mother, it was, but little did I know that the seeds were planted from both. Little did I know that there were consequences and there were rewards in the seeds that were planted from both. And so as I journeyed through my life, right, and I began to take on and resemble, right, the characteristics of my aunt and not my mother, I was able to share some things with my aunt that I couldn't share with my mother. And so if you had a person in your life like that, did you feel guilty? Right? And I often would try to understand what happened, like what's wrong with me? Why do I feel closer to my aunt than my own mother? You know what I mean? And so it brought about some depression, some anxiety, some confusion. And so it's amazing how when I did get into recovery and that I looked back over my life and I saw the ideas attitudes and behaviors that were formulated in different ways by each woman in my life, right? That I became who I became, right? And I also made conscious decisions on what I wanted to be like and what I didn't want it to be like. So I had a part to play in it, and I needed to acknowledge that, right? And so during my journey in life, becoming a drug addict, an alcoholic, a prostitute. I was a prostitute before I became a drug addict and an alcoholic. Why? Because I saw what my mom and my auntie did. I didn't understand when my mother did it. She did it to feed her children and to provide, and not often. Whereas my aunt did it, what? She did it. She, you know, and this is the amazing part. The money that she accumulated, right? She saved. Oh my goodness, yes, she saved, right? And so not understanding the dynamics of each of them, like what happened to them, and not looking at if there's something was wrong with them. I was able to, through my recovery process, to have a conversation with them. But the biggest and most important conversation I needed to have with them, and I did, was on my TV talk show. And I wanted to address the issue that each of us had feelings and thoughts about, but never talked about. And so recovery has set me free to ask the questions. Recovery has set me free to avail the opportunity for others to express their thoughts and their feelings. So on my TV talk show called Choosing a New Way of Life, I had my aunt and my mother, and I was in the middle. And I was able to ask them the questions like, did y'all feel anything? Well, Mom, how did you feel when I went to a Margaret house? And Margaret, how did you feel, going back to my mother? And do y'all understand what impact the both of you had on my life? And so from my mother's perspective, she said she was never jealous, right? She didn't like some of the things I was exposed to. She did see that. But my mother had 6 kids, and she was willing to get help from anybody. And so now I understood that my mother received the help and was grateful for the help my aunt gave to me, but she did not like what I was subjected to by my aunt's behavior. That makes sense? Yes. Okay. Now, Aunt Margaret, why did you pick me out of all my mom's 6 kids? And she revealed that the reason why she picked me was because I looked so much like her brother, my dad. Wow. See, I never knew that. My dad and my aunt could pass for twins, and I looked just like my aunt, and people thought I was her daughter, right? And so I would ask my aunt, why she picked me, and she told me. So that made sense to me, right? But then I began to ask, Margaret, do you know the impact that you had on my life? And she was like, yeah, because I grew up like that too. My mother put me out there to do this and do that, and not to give anything away. And so that's how I grew up, and that's all I could, concentrate on, right? Not knowing that she had some dark secrets that she needed to reveal, right? That she was trying to conceal. So it's 7:00 now. I got to start walking. But what I want to say is that when we get into recovery from any and all things, because all human beings are ill to some extent, we have to have the willingness, the honesty, and the open-mindedness to try to understand than to be understood. I know I have the spiritual principles and tools and resources in order for me, right, to have my heaven here on earth. And so as painful as it is to walk through the fear, I know that the acronym for fear is face everything and recover instead of forget everything and run. So I just want to say to the women, to the 2 women in my life, right? Yeah, my auntie Mama and my Aunt Margaret, that God saw fit for me to take care of both of them, Both of them before they died. Yes, I took care of my mother and I took care of my auntie mama. I didn't know that I had the motherly characteristic, the caregiving characteristic that my mom possessed. Yes, yes, yes. And even with my aunt, right, she was one who protected, right, me from a lot of harm that she experienced and didn't know that. So it's amazing how we are prepared for things yet to come. And I'll say this in closing, right? Don't be afraid to look at your past. You know why? Because it's the greatest possession that you have. And through a 12-step spiritual program, the 5 agreements, the gospel songs that I sing, my church affiliation, Dr. Sonia P3 Global, I am still learning how to apply spiritual principles, tools, and resources so that I too can experience an unlimited amount of spiritual breakthroughs. My heaven is here on earth and I'm living it. I'm in love with life. I'm in love with my God. I love myself today. I understand myself today just a little bit more, and I am free. I am free to be transparent and authentic, to come to you just the way I am. I love you. Why? Because I learned to love myself, and I learned that my God loved me always and forever. So, be of service to someone today. If it's God's will that we are rejoined tomorrow, I'll be here. And if it's God's will, you will be too. In the meantime, I love you. You love me. We are one big old family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? I love you. Have a blessed day. Be kind to someone. Be safe. Woo, Lord, I love you. I love you. I love you. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. All right.